FromSoftware, a company that is renowned for making difficult games. For many, the difficulty of a FromSoftware game like Dark Souls or Bloodborne is a godsend in a world of casual games, a beacon harkening back to the times when games weren't exactly friendly and when an uphill climb was valued over an easy control scheme or tutorials. And you don't get the choice. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, we ask the question, why do FromSoftware games have no difficulty option? So let's talk Soulsborne for just a second. The Dark Souls series and Bloodborne are difficult games, to say the very least. They're not impossible, and once you learn what they're about, they're actually quite fair. But what used to be one of the primary objectives of game design, coming up with some sort of challenge that players had to overcome, not an impossible one, but one that took a lot of thinking or effort or simply trial and error on the player's part, has become somewhat of a brand for FromSoftware. Many players, upon playing Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, any of the ensuing sequels or Bloodborne, or hell, even any of the offshoot type games that weren't developed by FromSoftware but clearly derive inspiration, like Nioh, which actually is a brilliant and still difficult game, maybe not as difficult, at least not as difficult as the original Dark Souls, but maybe some of the others as well. Still, it was certainly inspired by FromSoftware, and a lot of it seems like overcoming something that's just designed to be unfair. The thing is, the more you try again, the more you grind it out, the more you understand exactly what they're going for, you realize it's not unfair. They're just putting forward some very challenging criteria that you have to learn how to meet. And if you've never played a Dark Souls game, you probably suck at that. The thing is, because of this difficulty level, the game is extremely satisfying. You could have lots of brand new environments, a huge variety of enemies, including hidden ones, creative shortcuts, and massive bosses, but if none of it felt like doing something, it would just be another action game. And there's really not a Dark Souls that feels like just another action game. There's just a lot of good reasons that it feels good to play the game as you get better at these seemingly impossible challenges that sort of just have some mental unlocks and require a little more patience than your typical hack and slash. And to speak to that even more, all of the extra timing, difficulty, and strategy elements that mix in with the action RPG base really cause you to consider the RPG elements and utilize them. Actually spending time leveling up your character, making them stronger, crafting, doing the various extracurricular activities that Dark Souls provides you actually feel worthwhile, knowing they contribute to the core game mechanic of having just a little bit stronger of a hit, so that those hits count just a little bit more, so that as you perfect the timing, you may need even a little bit less hits, and that understanding and the progression combines into you just getting good. Each of the Souls games also adds a little curveball to the system to sort of change it up and add a layer of difficulty where you may not have been expecting it. And obviously, this has caused a lot of discussion as to which the best Souls game is. And a lot of this balance, this cause and effect, this need for a specific amount of attention, capacity to learn, and patience kind of makes an easy, medium, and hard mode selection seem off. So much work goes specifically into the Dark Souls experience and making it an exact precision machine that treats you the same way throughout the entire experience, that considering they're able to actually create a workable game with the idea that you shouldn't be able to choose your difficulty level is actually pretty impressive. You see, in a lot of games, difficulty level actually is very important. There really isn't a good reason that a game shouldn't be accessible to people. If someone wants to play a game, who am I to say you shouldn't be able to play this game in a manner that makes it possible for you to beat it? Because a lot of the time, the point of a game isn't necessarily the difficulty level itself. A lot of the time, a game exists to give you a narrative, to show you a world, or to give you an experience, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, there are a lot of games that I consider extremely well designed that don't do a lot more than take you through a story. It just depends on how. But FromSoftware's games aren't those types of games. FromSoftware's point is the difficulty level, and certainly that makes the games a bit niche. And to have found the kind of success that FromSoftware has with the Soulsborne games, it's impressive and also kind of interesting because they didn't make a game that's really intended to be for everyone. It is very much a take it or leave it difficult game. During an interview with GameSpot, series creator Hidetaka Miyazaki said this: "We don't want to include a difficulty level selection because we want to bring everyone to the same level of discussion and the same level of enjoyment. So we want everyone to first face that challenge and to overcome it in some way that suits them as a player. We want everyone to feel that sense of accomplishment. We want everyone to feel elated and join that discussion on the same level. We feel if there's different difficulty levels, that's going to segment and fragment the user base. People will have different experiences based on that differing difficulty level. This is something we take to heart when we design games. It's been the same way for previous titles, and it's very much the same with Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice." Now, I'm not one to say that everyone's experience can possibly be the same, but there is some worth to what he's saying here. The discussion around the difficulty level built massive communities all around the internet, for instance on Reddit. It's not just about the lore or the story or the characters. In fact, it's almost not about those things. Soulsborne fans are fans of the mechanics, usually before they're fans of almost anything else involving Dark Souls. And that's very interesting to think about, because I'll just go ahead and say this right here, they're not perfect. In fact, FromSoftware will probably work until whenever they stop working to perfect the formula. Remember, games are made by human beings, a lot of human beings, and it's interesting to see the choices they make as they develop new titles. Again, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice is also going to follow this same design idea. No difficulty level selection. It's just a game that's designed to be a specific way, balanced a specific way, and demands mechanic precision, at least to some degree. Just like the grappling hook they've added to Sekiro, this is all part of what hooks people, pun intended, and addicts them to the series. Certainly, the world, the lore, the characters, the bosses, the general sights are things that make people interested, but so much more discussion has happened around how. And it's all united discussion. It's always around the same idea that these games are so hard. But are they too hard? Are they not hard enough? Is it balanced properly? Are they fair? Are they unfair? If there was an easy, medium, and hard, would we be having these discussions? Because would we all be thinking about the game from these perspectives? Somebody might consider the easy mode to be the fair mode, and the other modes to be the incredibly hard modes that only certain people can beat. The playground competition modes, so to speak. But it's not just a competitive spirit, it's an enthusiasm that you often don't see for mechanics in games. Especially with mechanics for game genres that have been around a long time. The Soulsborne games, the ones developed by FromSoftware and even the inspired by titles developed by other people, exist as a sort of subgenre of action RPG, but they are still action RPGs. I think it's fair to say that Miyazaki's pretty spot on regarding the discussion surrounding the game. They did cultivate an environment where people have a similar experience and experience similar emotions about it. That is actually a good basis for a community. Now, Sekiro looks like it's probably going to be pretty different from the other Soulsborne games. It's quite a bit faster. But that same idea that there will not be a difficulty level is still going to carry through, so there's no real reason to assume that FromSoftware is ever actually going to implement difficulty levels. And while there's certainly an argument to be had about whether or not that's a great decision or not, I don't think there's really that big of an argument against their reasoning. It's a single unified experience, and that just isn't how stuff is a lot anymore. It's interesting that they've had such success with that, despite essentially shunning modern game design. They focus less on giving the player what they want and focus more on getting the player to play a certain way, which is actually fairly ambitious. Like, just see what FromSoftware is doing, what they aspire to do, and what they accomplish, and it's hard for me not to respect it. What do you think about the difficulty level in a FromSoftware game? Do you think that's a good reason not to have the choice? The unification of discussion and community? Leave us a comment, tell us what you think, and if you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on gameranx.